as we await more reactions, just to tell you that politically, I think you'll now see the reactions coming in over the next hour or so. BJP President Home Minister Amit Shah had also called a meeting with BJP spokespersons as well as a separate meeting on security with the NSA and the IB director this morning. So there's already been a huge note of caution that has been sent out to BJP party spokespersons on how this plays out on television. And I don't know what other channels are reporting today, but I do hope that there is some semblance of sanity across networks as well. The Congress is having a meeting of its working committee, the CWC, as we speak. So I think we will get some clarity on what their clear position on this issue is going to be in just a short while from now. But the important thing is that this is over. After decades and decades of political and legal wrangling, the Ayodhya matter has now been set to rest by India's Supreme Court. It's a unanimous verdict, one which many are describing as a balanced verdict, and hopefully this will set this matter to rest as far as it being a political issue is concerned.
Just very briefly want to touch on the overall security situation in the country again, because a lot of people would be concerned about that as they step out. Section 144 has been imposed all across Mumbai. That means that there are restrictions on the number of people who can assemble in one area. In Jammu, that's also the case. In Uttar Pradesh, also the case. So restrictions on assembly of people. Police have been deployed in sensitive areas in Mumbai. There have been some arrests before the verdict actually came out in Andhra Pradesh as well. Delhi, prohibitory orders in certain areas. But by and large, in Ayodhya, in Delhi, in Mumbai, normal life does continue. Obviously, a very heavy presence of security personnel.
But
the
all
Home
of
Ministry
it's
also looking, all of it precautionary.
Yeah.
And this happened before, you know, I mean, the verdict was read out. So that's the overall situation right now. And I think that message for peace is important. That the deployment of security is actually meant to ensure that. And a very important point over here, the use of social media. Various governments have been saying, be careful about what you post, be careful about what you tweet, whichever format you use. There cannot be anything inflammatory which goes out over there. And that's a message which we'd like to remind our viewers as well at this juncture.
Right. Well, let's try and see if we can go across to Alok Pandey and others now in Ayodhya as well, because we've just seen the DM of Ayodhya putting out a tweet congratulating everybody on a peaceful resolution of a long-standing dispute, urging everyone to observe restraint in celebrating the verdict. Anyone inciting or indulging in any insulting behavior will be acted against. Remember, there are a lot of precautions in place given the history of this dispute and how it has played out in the past. And clearly, the law and order situation is being handled very calmly and in a much more mature way this time. We can see that even with the prohibitory orders that have been in place, these are all precautions, and it's good to see so far that calm and sanity has prevailed. Even in some of the political reactions coming again, Nitish Kumar has just spoken saying everyone should welcome the verdict, should respect it. It is a unanimous top court decision. Again, you know, BJP leaders like Vinay Katyar saying that everyone should maintain peace and harmony, and you know that Muslims should also start their construction, land should be given to them as well, as which is what the court has ordered. So it's good to see so far that even politically, you know, the reactions you know that have been coming in are restrained. And we are actually expecting a number of press conferences now to take place. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board will be reacting shortly. I think they've scheduled it for some time around now. The Congress Working Committee, as I said, is meeting. And we have Aarti Jairath also, who's been patiently watching this verdict with us. Aarti, you're always like with us
and you're always
patiently waiting.
Patient. Your first, it is very interesting.
Your first thoughts?
Well, you know, it's a very measured and balanced judgment, really, given the circumstances. I think the court has tried to be fair to the Hindus and to the Muslims, you know, now, I mean, taking this forward, the government should get moving quickly to set up that trust and, you know, start the construction of a temple and simultaneously allot land to the Sunni Waqf Board for the construction of a mosque. And I'm really very impressed with the political class, with everybody, for the kind of statements that they've been making, calling for a peace and calling for harmony. I think, Nidhi, you did make this point, and I think it was a very important point, that it was a unanimous verdict. So the unanimity of the verdict kind of gives it a strength which it would not have had it been a split verdict.
Yeah.
So, that makes it very difficult for anybody to really quarrel with the verdict if all 5 judges have, sort of agreed on it. There are a few points which, I don't know, I guess when the final order comes in, maybe those questions will be answered. One is where does the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas fit into this? Because I heard a stray comment from Sanket that Malikana Haq Nyas ko hoga.
Yeah. It's true. It's in the judgment.
It's in the judgment.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Nyas was actually the VHP, floated by the VHP, for the construction of a temple. So if they have the Malikana Haq, that means that they actually have the ownership of the land, and the Nirmohi Akhada is being given, which claims to be the original owner. They've been given just a kind of
a role in the trust.
A role in the trust to help with the construction. The second is, and this is, the sort of, I hope the Supreme Court has clarified this, because they have relied on ASI findings.
Yeah, extensive mention
extensively
of that, yes.
for this. There are several other mosques all over the country, particularly 2 which have been high up on the agenda of the VHP. One is the one in Mathura and the other is the one at Kashi. And, if the ASI report is going to become the basis for deciding, what existed. And
okay, Nitin Gadkari speaking, just interrupting, let's listen.
जो निर्णय दिया है वो लोकतांत्रिक देश होने के नाते सबने उसको स्वीकार करना चाहिए और शांति और सद्भाव वही कायम रखना चाहिए. सभी लोग शांति और सद्भाव कायम रखें, यही मेरी प्रार्थना है.
All right, the first reaction in a sense from the government, from the BJP, from Nitin Gadkari, their union minister, saying that the verdict should be respected and that peace and calm must be maintained at all costs. So thankfully we're not seeing, as the Prime Minister had cautioned and others, no sort of overt, over-the-top celebrations by any side or any kind of finger pointing. So it's good to see that calm has prevailed. Sanket back with us. Sanket and Arvind are back with Sunil Prabhu and Sanket actually at the Supreme Court, and Alok Pandey there in Ayodhya. Sanket and Sunil, let's just go over this once. Now the court has said that the disputed site goes to a trust that the government now has to put together over the course of the next 3 months. Now, can you just clarify for us that did the court explicitly say that a temple will be built on that disputed site, or that it is for the trust to determine what structure will be built there?
The exact words of the court, Nidhi, was very clear. That a trust will be formed, a government of India will form a scheme in which there will be a management for this land, which will facilitate for the construction of a temple. Okay. It is very clear, and the underlining part is for the construction of a Ram temple, because as you see in the judgment, and you'll read it when it is put out, that it is the belief of Hindus, as they say, that Ayodhya is the birthplace of Ram. And there have been travelogues, and they date back to that, to various statements and attributes in that context, to say very categorically that this scheme or trust, which will be formed and notified by the Government of India within a period of 3 months, will not only look after the management, but also the construction of the site of the trust.
And Sunil,
of the temple.
Right. And Sunil, how heavily did the Supreme Court look at the Archaeological Survey of India's reports in coming to its conclusions today?
I think today's Archaeological Survey of India was a clear and extremely important evidence for them. I think they relied on that substantially. When you heard the Chief Justice of India speak in the Supreme Court for out of his half an hour, nearly 15 minutes, they relied extensively on that findings, which was not Islamic in nature, as they said. The fact that there were a structure below, that there has been, there is no, and the fact that as they contended, the mosque that had come up by one of the commanders of Babur does not establish in any way, the fact one way or the other, as they pointed out, adverse possession, or that the fact that they had land rights. Sanket, would you like to join in and say, isn't that extremely significant finding, the fact that they've said, and relying on the ASI report, that it was not Islamic in nature, and then of course saying that the have been able to
yes, I think the flashes that you were sending have made it very clear that the Supreme Court has based its judgment on a very, very scientific, evidence-based formula, right? So they went by whatever proof was at their disposal. What did they know? They got to know through records that there was a division, a fence which was created where both the sides were praying, right? It mentioned of the period of 1856 to inner courtyard and outer courtyard. It also mentioned how there was no document to suggest that the Muslims rightfully owned the inner courtyard. That was mentioned. It also mentioned Archaeological Survey of India's findings, which said that they did conclude that there is a temple, but they could not conclude whether a masjid was constructed by demolishing a temple. So in all, it's very clear that the judgment, the basis of the judgment is on the basis of very, very scientific evidence which has been presented in front of it. And at the end of the day, as it is being said by you as well as Ashish Bhargav, it's the Lord who owns the land now. A trust is going to be formed. In 3 months, the government is going to decide the broad contours of the trust. But one important aspect over here is that the Nirmohi Akhada, whose suit or whose petition was dismissed earlier, not maintainable, has also been made part of this trust. So they will be a part of this trust to decide the future course of action of what needs to be done on the land.
And an important point that they bring for Ram Lalla, that it is subject to law and order.
Absolutely.
So I think
Sunil, just
here you
another
have it
important
very...
point.
One more update, Sunil, is that now the other petitioners have now started speaking, where we are getting response from the Sunni Central Waqf Board. Zafaryab Jilani has said that we welcome the order of the Supreme Court. However, we are not satisfied and we'll decide our next course of action. At this moment, it will be very crucial to tell our viewers that even now, there is an option of judicial review of this order, and that right can be exercised by the stakeholders who are unhappy with this work.